If you're afraid to start a business because you're scared you'll fail, or scared what people will say, or scared to prove to yourself that you're not actually capable, this video is for you. Not because you're weak, but because you're stuck inside a story that sounds logical and quietly keeps you exactly where you are. So let me say something uncomfortable but important. Most people who say they want to start a business aren't lazy. They're not unmotivated, and they're not incapable. They're trapped inside a handful of beliefs that feel responsible but have very real consequences. You hear them all the time. I don't have time. I don't have money. I'm not confident enough. I don't have the skills. I failed before and I can't trust myself. Those aren't just excuses. They're identity level beliefs. And once you accept them as truth, they quietly decide your future for you. When you believe that you don't have time, you trade long-term freedom for short-term safety. When you believe that you don't have money, you stay dependent on income you don't control. When you believe that you're not confident enough, you wait for a belief that only comes after action. When you believe that you don't have the skills, you avoid simple paths and chase complexity that feels impressive and fails. And when you believe that your past failures define you, you stop moving altogether. Not because you can't succeed, but because trying feels more painful than staying where you are. That's the nightmare. And here's what almost no one tells you. Most people didn't fail because they were broken. They failed because they chose business models that were fragile. Models that required confidence before results, money before proof, skills before customers, belief before momentum. That's not entrepreneurship, that's gambling. And the reason so many people lose confidence isn't because they're incapable, it's because they picked a game that punished beginners. So in this video, I'm not gonna hype you up. I'm not gonna tell you to believe in yourself, and I'm not gonna tell you just take the leap. What I'm gonna do is show you a different way to think about starting, one that removes pressure instead of adding more. A way to choose work that doesn't require confidence up front, doesn't require being special, and doesn't collapse the moment things get uncomfortable. Because when fear's involved, emotion doesn't help, clarity does. You see, most people think success in business comes from being different. They think they need a brand new idea, a clever angle, something innovative, because that's what gets celebrated. But here's the truth. Most businesses don't fail because the idea was bad. They fail because the basics weren't done consistently. At its core, business is simple. Someone has a problem, they want it handled, they're willing to pay for that to happen. The businesses that win are usually the ones that respond, follow through, do what was promised, not once, every time. Think about this. Your car breaks down, not on a relaxed weekend, on a normal day when you have somewhere to be. In that moment, your brain doesn't wander, it gets very practical. Is anyone open right now? How close are they? Can they get me in today? How long will it take? Can someone tow the car? You're not thinking about who has the newest equipment, you're thinking about who can actually handle this. And that's why in the real world, the most successful candidates are not the fanciest ones, they're the ones who answer the phone, don't keep you on hold, or open when others aren't, that fix things quickly, that have access to parts. Maybe they offer a shuttle so you're not stuck waiting. They're not necessarily cheaper, but they're available, and availability feels like relief. And here's the part most people overlook. A mechanic doesn't need to disrupt the auto industry to make good money. They don't need investors, they don't need new technology, and they don't need to reinvent anything. They earn well because cars break every day. People need them fixed, and people are willing to pay immediately. That demand already exists. Someone who runs a reliable shop, answers the phone, keeps wait times reasonable, and fixes things efficiently. They can earn a very solid income just by doing the basics well. Not because they're innovative, but because they're useful. Now compare that to trying to invent something new. You might need years of development. You might need funding. You might never find customers. And all that risk exists before you even earn a dollar. When you look at it honestly, the odds of earning a strong, repeatable income are often higher serving a basic need reliably than chasing an unproven idea that hasn't made a single sale. That's not pessimism. That's probability. Then something else becomes obvious. Every single day, people go online and search for help with basic problems. Not because it's exciting, because they want relief. When someone searches, they're not browsing, they're asking. And that means the hardest part of business, demand, already exists before you start. Now here's the part most people avoid talking about. There's no way to figure things out without actually doing them. There is no version of starting a business where you're good right away, where you never feel embarrassed, where you never lose money, or you never look bad. That's the version that doesn't exist. Starting is painful, not because you're failing, but because you're a beginner. The real fear isn't work, it's the risk of looking foolish, the risk of losing money, the risk of hearing, I told you so. So instead of starting, people wait. Then they tell themselves they're probably being responsible, but what they're really doing is avoiding discomfort. And the people you're worried about judging you fall into two groups. The first group is people who are actually successful, and they understand exactly what starting feels like. They've failed, they've adjusted, they've tried again, and they don't judge the attempt, they respect it. The second group, they never try. And when they criticize you or say, I knew it wouldn't work out if you struggle, they're not judging you, they're justifying themselves. Seeing you try and possibly fail makes them feel safer about never starting. You're allowed to be bad at something before you're good at it. And you're allowed to start without certainty. You're allowed to try, fail, learn, and continue. That's not weakness. That's how every meaningful success story actually works. Everyone talks about the risk of starting, but almost nobody talks about the cost of not starting because it's quiet. It shows up as regret, as resentment, as knowing you never really tested yourself. And that pain lasts longer than failure ever does. Almost nobody succeeds because they were right the first time. They succeed because they stayed in the game long enough to become good at something. If you practice anything for 10 years, you'd be good at it. Business is no different. It's not about brilliance, it's about stamina. Some paths punish beginners, some reward consistency. So in this next video, I'll show you the simplest path I've ever seen, the one that removes as much friction as possible. But understand this first, even that path isn't your final destination. Every step you take moves you closer. That's how life works. That's how business works. If this video gave you permission you didn't realize you were waiting for, the next video will give you clarity. I break down the exact criteria that I used to choose a business that didn't require confidence, didn't require quitting your job, didn't require innovation, and worked even when life wasn't perfect. If you're ready to stop waiting and start moving, click the next video right here.